Deputy Prime Minister Heng Keat says human resource professionals need to build up new skill sets to understand a tech-driven world. For instance, data analytics and talent management specific to tech. This will allow them to understand the needs of the future workforce so they can better help organizations and people adapt.
HR will need to establish the right structures, systems, and processes. Driving structural changes requires a range of tools, from vision to matrix to programs, to drive alignment and ensure shared outcomes. Crucially, the key is to bring everyone in the organization along and optimize the deployments of skills and talent to support business growth.
Mr. Heng was speaking at the World Human Resource Congress. Over 3 days, more than 1,000 HR professionals from around the world are expected to discuss building workplaces that support flexible work arrangements and mental well-being. Also on the agenda, how to make sure workers have the skills companies need.
It is absolutely critical for HR as a function to adapt. But first, reskill, two, adapt, and three, be the megaphone for these changes in the organization. We have a huge functional leadership role to play in any organization, as also a very critical role in being able to uplift the leadership and the middle management capability.
And for more on how AI technology is affecting human resource management, I'm joined by Alvin Aloysius Goh. He's Executive Director at the Singapore Human Resources Institute. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Right. I'll quote DPM Heng there. Changes in structures, systems and processes. In a way that sums up everything that has to be done from the HR perspective, given this increasing dependence on artificial intelligence. Does it?
I think definitely right. I think from an AI perspective, as HR leaders and business leaders, we really need to really look at it and take perhaps a mid to long-term view of how AI and technology will influence businesses itself. And from that perspective, work backwards and ask ourselves, how would we as HR and business leaders influence the future of work, workplaces, and as well in terms of the workforce, and create synergies among these three sub-ecosystems to really then advance...
So the three sub-ecosystems would be?
The future of work, the future of the workplace, and as well the future of the talent as well, that we really need, right? So from that perspective, to really look at how the organizations will actually look like into the future, 3 years out, 5 years out, and ask ourselves, how can technology and AI advance and make us more effective and efficient on that perspective?
All right. So you're assuming AI may not, in fact, make us more efficient?
No, I think to a large extent, AI will make us more effective and make us more efficient. If we were to look at the data perspective, just before COVID, the world of HR technology, or AI for that matter, was about $100 million. Today, when we look at the adoption of technology in terms of a dollars perspective, it's almost 300 over million. And that signifies the adoption of technology in the workplaces today.
Okay, so let's deal with something concrete. When you say we need to be looking at what an organization in the future might look like, and then to walk backwards from there to see what we then need to do on the HR side of things. If you could give me a solid example, maybe hypothetical organization, a real life industry and organization, and walking backwards from that, what would that be?
So if the first thought that comes to mind will be, for example, telemedicine, right? Today, especially during COVID itself, gone are the days whereby we need to physically go down to a clinic to see a doctor. Everything could be done on the telepad itself. And from that itself, doctors are then able to ascertain to some level of accuracy a patient or employee, how warranted or how sick they are itself, to then be able to issue digital medical certs, for example, right? In the world of HR as well, one of the key aspects that what we're also looking at is that a lot of the compensation and benefits specialists could actually be done on the blockchain technology. In the past,
what is compensation and benefits?
Compensation and benefits are things like salaries, how do you do salaries rewarding, how do you pay salaries and so forth. In the past, there's always a maker, a checker, and approval. But with blockchain technology today, we don't need a maker, a checker, and approval anymore. So we just need perhaps one warm body, right, to really make the payroll, submit up to payroll, and blockchain itself could actually look through the entire Excel spreadsheet or the uploading of the compensation files, and from there approved it, right? So gone are the days that where we need a huge compensation and benefits or payroll team to actually manage our payroll systems, right? And then that's technology for us today, which really makes us more effective and efficient. And the best part of this is that with AI and generative AI to some extent itself, you know, they are able to, the platforms, what I'm saying is that it's able then to actually spot and highlight certain inaccuracies in some of the
that brings me to the next question, spotting inaccuracies. And I think this was something we reported on several months ago perhaps. This essentially we're talking about telemedicine. There are issues with a possibly suspect clinic issuing MCs without actually, in a way, if it's telemedicine, in principle, you're having to trust the person.
Yes.
Because I could fake a cough, I could fake anything. Not that I couldn't fake it going to the doctor in person, but it's easier to fake if it's just, I don't know, via Zoom.
Yeah.
So when you say walk back, are we also walking back all these possibilities for the system not allowing us to be quite as effective, accurate, and disciplined as we should be?
I think where you're coming from is it boils down to a level of trust between employer and employees itself. I think one of the key perspectives as HR leaders and business leaders, it's a delicate balance to actually look at how do we balance the financial health of the organization, which, for example, what you're alluding to in terms of productivity. But on the other hand, we also need to balance the physical and mental well-being of the workforce as well. Because from a perspective of productivity, if there's no trust in an organization, it's really very hard to move the needle for a lot of us itself, especially whereby leaders themselves or business leaders, line managers are always second-guessing what their employees are up to, especially going towards a perspective whereby in the future, whereby we are looking at even FWA, flexible work arrangement request that is coming out on 1st December, right? How productive are our employees actually at working remotely? Are they productive and so forth? But don't forget, we just turned around the corner of COVID-19 as well. And through some of the research that SHRI has done, was shown that when employees are actually working at home, they are indeed productive because we are cutting down on time for commuting from home to office, right? We are also having the much better time in terms of concentrating on the work that we do rather than engaging in what we call corridor gossips and so forth like that. Right? So I think there is a good evidence to suggest that even with remote working, and from that perspective, our employees who are actually doing remote working, they are productive.
So to ensure mental health, work-life balance, is there a way to use AI in a way, the way we use it to be more effective so that it is able to do all that? Very quickly.
I don't think AI itself will come in and say, with AI, I can be much more better in terms of mental health. I think mental health perspective is that employees themselves must be able to, actually have some self-care, right? And employees also must be able to understand that burnout is real. Many of us got burnt out during COVID for the fact that we were not able to disconnect. Right? And I think it's important that employers and employees must come together and build that relationship, build that culture of trust within the organization and say it's all right to disconnect as well.
So in short, it comes right back to us and our trust with each other and our organization.
Exactly.
Well, thanks so much for coming in and joining us this evening, Mr. Alvin Aloysius Goh, Executive Director at the Singapore Human Resources Institution.
Thank you very much.
Institute.